Welcome to the Casual Contemplation Podcast. I'm Philip.
And I'm Casey.
Casey and I were roommates through college, and now we're long-distance friends who rarely get the chance to talk about anything at length.
So, we've created this podcast as a place where we can chat about different hobbies and interests. We're far from experts in anything, but we hope you enjoy our casual take.
As a disclaimer, all of these are personal opinion and should not be taken as fact. And we are currently recording from two different locations, so there might be instances of technical difficulty that you might hear.
Thanks for your understanding. Right.
Okay.
Let's get started then.
Yes. So today we are talking about theme parks.
All right.
So theme parks, woo, theme parks, not like straight up amusement park, but more specifically a theme park. So, Casey, what do you think the difference is between a theme park and an amusement park?
I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, well, granted, amusement parks can be theme parks, but theme parks usually imply that there's a consistent theme throughout the rides or the entertainment.
Like Disneyland, Universal Orlando Studios, those are all theme parks versus like Six Flags, right? Six Flags is a pure amusement park.
Really? I mean, they have mascots. What's the woodpecker?
Woody Woodpecker?
Not Willie. Yeah, isn't that kind of their mascot?
That's Universal Studios.
And it used to be. Oh wait, I thought you just said Universal Studios.
No. So Universal Studios and Disneyland are theme parks, right?
Oh, okay. So what did you give as an example? It's not
Six Flags.
Oh, wait. Okay, my bad. All right. Yeah, right.
Six Flags and then...
Six Flags has the okay. Six Flags has the old dude.
More flags, more fun. Six Flags.
Yeah, but that guy hasn't been back there for a while.
Yeah,
I think he's
been temporary.
Yeah, I mean that was like a kind of like a commercial effort to try to get people to get excited about Six Flags. But yeah, so Six Flags, right? Six Flags, Knott's Berry Farm. Those are all just straight up amusement parks, but they don't really follow a specific theme other than like the theme of fun, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's what we consider the difference between a theme park and a amusement park. So for this particular episode, we're going to be talking specifically about theme parks. So with that said, Casey, what is your experiences of kind of like your theme parks growing up?
I think I was very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to visit, the major theme parks that we know of, at least the majority of them I could think of right now, like Disneyland, Universal Studios, all those that you just mentioned. I was able to visit, I guess, as a kid. So if I had to choose within the theme parks, I'd probably say Disneyland, or I have gone to Disney World once. And that was a whole another experience. So
that is interesting. Yeah, that is an interesting topic because I think that now that you bring it up, there aren't that many theme parks really. Like amusement parks are a lot more common, I want to say. Like Six Flags is an amusement park, Knott's Berry Farm is an amusement park. Those amusement park chains exist kind of all around the country. Whereas what we traditionally think of a theme park, right? Disneyland, Universal Studios. There's a Dolly Parton theme park somewhere in the Midwest. There are a lot fewer of those. I think maybe SeaWorld, although that's a bit of a controversial pick, and Marine World are considered or like classified within that theme park, like wildlife theme. But there aren't really that many theme parks in the US. And I don't even know if you expand that to the world, whether or not there are that many theme parks per se. It's mostly amusement parks.
Yeah, and I hate that I have to kind of go back to Japan all the time. It's just
you hate that you have to go back to Japan all the time?
Yeah, I feel like it's just like, I mean, if I was just kind of like, man, this guy is always talking about Japan. But if you go to Japan, there's a lot of theme parks because mascots are a pretty big thing. One big one and one popular one is the Sanrio Park.
Oh, yeah.
The official name is Sanrio Land. I've been there once when I was really young. There's not that many rides, mostly shows. And, there's a Sanrio, like Hello Kitty characters walking around, but that's fun. And then because there's, I guess anime is part of the culture too. So there's like one for Anpanman. And then there's one Ghibli park that's opening in 2022.
Oh, really?
2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
sorry. No, go ahead.
And then I know you love Pokemon, so there used to be a Poke Park, which was a temporary theme park that I think was somewhere in the Kanto region. I think. Please don't quote me on that, but yeah. So I mean, I think Japan, just because of the anime and all that, it has more theme parks than maybe the States.
So do you think some of that is because there aren't as many, like the media is very concentrated right now in a few different creative outlets? Like Disney's the big studio that really kind of controls a lot. Universal Studios is a big owner of a lot of kind of the media branches. It treads between like Universal and Warner Brothers. Like that's the reason why there aren't really that many theme parks around. Like in Japan, there's a lot more.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. And IP ownership, intellectual property ownership in Japan, there's not one major company that owns everything like Disney in the States or Universal Studios. Famous ones are like Ultraman, Godzilla. You know, there's different studios that own these key IPs. So I mean, comic fans might roast me on this, but I think it's kind of like Marvel versus DC. A few studios own different IPs. So that's why it's easier to create different types of theme parks. Whereas, as you mentioned, here in the States, I mean, Disney's buying everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's like Star Wars. I mean, that could have been like a completely different Star Wars theme park.
Yeah.
Because Disney owns Star Wars now. Now it's in California Adventures, right?
Yeah, that's crazy because Japan as a country is so small, but it has so many theme parks, whereas the US, it's quite large. Then there's a lot of empty space that you could build a theme park. Granted, again, this is where we get back to theme park versus amusement park, because there's a lot of amusement parks here, but not too many specifically theme parks.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point that we kind of stumbled upon. Kind of switching gears, I think we've both seen this when we were researching this episode, the upcoming prevalence of VR within the amusement park experience. I'm curious whether or not you think that will lend itself to more of a theme park experience versus just like expanding on the amusement park and trying to improve the experience of an amusement park versus actually starting to move everything towards a theme park.
I think VR technology can improve both theme parks and amusement parks. Well, I mean, this is not VR. I think it's more like 3D glasses, but Universal Studios has done 3D for a while now. Now, and I think they have the 4D Transformers. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, these companies are trying to, or I guess theme parks, I should say, are trying to innovate and enhance the experience. And now I think, as you mentioned, quote unquote, next big thing is VR. Well, I think it started with AR, and now it's moving into VR. So it's definitely going to make things better.
Do you think that's going to make things better? Because I think, at least with theme parks, right, part of the experience is being kind of enveloped in the world of whichever theme that you're in. So like the Pokemon world, the Godzilla world, the Disney world, or Disney-centric world, or a Universal Studios IP-centric world. And part of that is kind of like the tactility that you get with having those themed world versus a VR-centric experience. You lose that tactility.
I think VR would enhance the theme park experience a lot more than the amusement park experience, just exactly for the reason that you mentioned, the tactility. If anything, I don't know, I guess laser tag can be enhanced with VR. But yeah, I think amusement parks, you kind of go for the physical experience of riding roller coasters and carousels. There's so much you can do of enhancing a castle ride. Well, I mean, I guess kind of the AR for kids, maybe if they can see the unicorn or the horse moving with AR, now I guess that could make it better. But I mean, yeah, it's not that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So I guess for like a theme park then, or even an amusement park, where do you see the advantages outside of laser tag, like you mentioned, of VR? Because I personally, right, I think it lends itself to, like you said, enhancing the experience with augmented characters that are walking around or interacting with you. Maybe little kind of like hidden secrets, like the hidden Mickeys in Disneyland, or in that new Super Mario Park, kind of the hidden locations that you can level up to, or creating in-park games with. I feel like you can enhance that experience, but I don't know if you have any other thoughts on what else you might be able to enhance with the VR experience.
Well, I have a few thoughts, but I don't want to go into it too much because it's part of my design.
Okay.
What I will say is, at 100% VR theme park doesn't, for me personally, doesn't sound too appealing. I think it should be a mix of physical experiences and virtual experiences. If you're able to mix that effectively, I don't know if that's the right word, I think then it would really enhance. I mean, I would prefer that over just the VR, 100% VR theme park.
Yeah. Do you think that you would appreciate that over a non-VR theme park? I know from like a business standpoint, it probably makes more sense because it would be cheaper to have all of this kind of like programmed into the VR goggles versus having to spend continuously on like props or updates to the park.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like the electricity bill would kind of be pretty high. And I mean, if something crashes, then you're done.
Yeah.
The worst thing about, going to theme parks and amusement parks are when like the rides aren't working. And if everything is VR, if something went, I don't know. I mean, I can't. I don't know all the mechanics, so I can't speak to it. But if something goes down and all the rides go down, then you're kind of screwed, right? So.
So do you think that adding VR into theme park means that it's more chances for kind of like a buggy experience to happen to the user or like whoever's entering the theme park?
I mean, if you do it well and it works, I think it would definitely be a better experience. Especially for theme parks because, well, I think it depends on the IP. That's what your theme park is based off of. If it's like anime characters and comic characters, or the readers or the fans of those shows want to be integrated into that world that these characters exist in, then I think VR is the perfect platform to leverage. But if your theme park is not that type of entertainment, maybe it's not as effective, or it's not. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. I was thinking that even if you have like the VR adding to kind of that more IP related experience, I think as a kind of becoming enveloped within the atmosphere, this is probably just me being a little old school, it wouldn't enhance customers' experience versus like probably the more material expensive upgrades that would happen otherwise. But also I'm curious, like if theme parks start leaning more and more heavily into VR once VR becomes a viable technology, I feel like you would appreciate more the theme park that actually didn't have VR. Kind of like the second generation of George Lucas Star Wars movies where they went heavy on like the digital effects. It made you really appreciate what he did with the first set of Star Wars movies with all just like costumes and real effects instead of digital effects. And same thing with like Jurassic Park, right? All the new Jurassic Park is very digital stand-ins versus the old Jurassic Park, which was like these huge animatronics that were a lot more tactile to the actors, but also to the viewers, they were a lot more real. And I think as a movie viewer, I appreciated that more. So I'm wondering if like the VR experience kind of is similar to that.
Wait, I thought you were talking about like what's going on in the movie, but are you speaking about the experience of us as a movie? Someone watching the movie?
So I'm speaking So I'm speaking to the experience of like once VR becomes a lot more viable for theme parks to integrate within the experience, would we start appreciating more theme parks that actually didn't integrate to the experience because of like the reliance of digital augmentation of the theme park experience versus actual real building of the theme, rebuilding, upgrading the designs of the theme park in the physical world. Similar to how in like Star Wars you had that move, Star Wars, all the kind of like the movie industry as a whole, you had that movement from animatronics to digital, like digital dinosaurs, digital anything that was less feasible physically and financially, all that moved to digital.
I think that's why, kind of going back to my prior comment, it's better to mix physical reality and the VR instead of going to 100% VR. And maybe it's because of how we grew up, and maybe it's a generational thing. But I would agree with you that, yeah, people are going to miss physical experiences, right? So some people won't be satisfied if it's 100% VR. Now, with that said, again, I think it depends on the experience. For example, if you were to recreate Jurassic Park, it's a matter of, do you want to go to the zoo where it's supposedly safe, where we can see actual, or I guess recreated dinosaurs, or experience dinosaurs in a very safe world where you 100% not going to get killed because dinosaurs won't escape? I think it's
that balancing act.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, if you decide to create a Jurassic World ourselves, maybe we'll have both.
Maybe. That first movie scared me probably to the point where I never want to consider taking like a trip back prehistorically if there's a time machine.
Have you ever gone to safaris?
Not on like the real safari. I've gone to Safari Park at the San Diego Zoo, and they take you kind of like on this guy's safari, but like the Saharan Plain, no. I know there's like the Safari Drive in Texas where they have like a whole bunch of wild animals on like this open land reserve. And there, like you can drive your car through, and then like a giraffe will come and peek their head through your sunroof if you have one, and then other animals will come up to you. But I've never been to that. Like the closest thing I've been to a safari park is the San Diego Zoo one.
Yeah, I don't think I've been to that San Diego Zoo safari park either. The closest I think I've been to, I guess, an animal in their habitat is whale watching.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're so far away from the whale, you can barely see it. Well, okay, I've had one incident, or one time when I went there, I actually got to see it was pretty close, but we didn't have smartphones back then, so I don't have any proof. But
I mean, if you really want to kind of go that route, I have been snorkeling in Hawaii and Australia. Actually, the Great Barrier Reef, I was able to snorkel around there, but you're able to see like fishes real close. And my dad almost got bit by a turtle.
Oh,
because he got too close to the turtle, wherever that turtle was staying underwater. And like pufferfishes too, they're kind of scary. They just kind of like start puffing up, but they keep on going towards you. I don't know why.
Yeah, and they have they have poison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, based on how you describe your experience scuba diving, that's not going to be something that you can recreate virtually. You can try, but physically being that close to an animal is never going to, I can't say never because I don't know what technology will be like, but at least maybe in maybe next 20, 30 years, that's not something that you'll be able to recreate virtually. So I think it's each customer's, I guess, quote unquote, risk appetite as well as preferences. So that was my way to answer your very long.
Well, we both went really weird ways around asking and answering that question. So yeah, we went through a couple items. Why in the US we might not have as many theme parks as other places like Japan. A little bit of the future of the theme park and what we thought of how VR might influence the direction and enhance the experience of the theme park, and what are some of the pros and cons of that introduction. With that said, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. And what's going to come up next, Keishi?
CaʒCon workshop.
Yeah, where we are presenting to you, the listeners,
our theme park design.
Yeah.
Maybe dope.
Come back and listen after the commercial break. We'll see you soon.
All right.
We're back from the commercial break. Thanks for waiting while we took a little bathroom break, got ourselves ready, prepared, because we're quite pumped for this section, the final CaʒCon workshop of the season.
I think it might just be my best design yet.
Oh, I'm excited to hear about this.
So just a disclaimer for the audience, I really nerded out. So Phil is going to prevent me from getting too excited and making sure that we keep the audience engaged. because I'm going to go into a few things that are very specific that people that may not be fans of the top or the theme that I chose might feel a little bit left behind. So please keep me.
Yeah, I'll keep the conversation moving. So without further ado, we bring you today's CaʒCon workshop.
The CaʒCon workshop.
So for this CaʒCon workshop, we're doing things a little bit differently. Previous CaʒCon workshops, we had one host, either Casey or I, go through their own CaʒCon workshop concept before handing the microphone off to the second host to go through their own CaʒCon workshop concept. For this workshop, we're going to be splitting up each of our concepts into 6 different items. The first item being the rides, second item being the location and food, third item being the exploration and the vents, the fourth item being the logo and mascot, the fifth item being the map, and the sixth item being the merchandising. We'll go ahead and get started with your theme park, Keishi. First off, I guess, what is the name of your theme park and what is the theme of your theme park?
So my theme, and I don't know if our listeners know what this is, but it's Ultraman.
Ooh.
Have you heard of Ultraman?
I used to have a figurine of Ultraman, actually. Like probably like a foot long figurine of him.
Oh, that's pretty big.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to it though. I'm really sad.
So for those that may not know this, Ultraman it's an alien that fights against kaijus or monsters on behalf of humans. And usually it's a tokusatsu or special effects series that is owned by Tsuburaya Productions. It's an old studio that's known for these Japanese traditional special effects that started in the 1950s.
That was old.
Super old. It's been around, and they have the IP ownership of Ultraman. If you Google search Ultraman, Ultraman, you'll kind of know what it is, but
is it one word or 2 words?
It's one word.
Okay.
In English, yeah, it's one word. Yeah. Please just Google it. It's too hard to explain.
Do you want to give like a 1-sentence synopsis of Ultraman for those who don't know?
Sure. So Earth, for some reason it's in Japan only, but Earth is invaded by kaijus.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people know what kaijus are because of the recent Godzilla series, but so Earth is invaded by these monsters, and Ultraman, who's an alien from M78 nebulous M78,
mm-hmm.
he comes to Earth
mm-hmm.
to help the humans out.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually he changes into a human being and fights for the special forces team.
Mm-hmm.
But then if humans can't handle it, then he turns into Ultraman, and he fights the kaijus and kills them or sends them back to space. Yeah.
So that's the theme of it, right? So is it supposed to be kind of like a Disneyland, a Disney World type theme park?
Yeah. So Ultraman is it's like Power Rangers in a sense that it's very old. So
mm-hmm.
they've done multiple seasons of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just focused on the very first series that came out in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
The whole theme park is based on season 1.
And what's the name of your theme park?
So again, I'm really nerding out here, but I called it M78 Nebulous because that's where Ultraman's from.
Ah.
So Ultraman is similar to all the, like the Sanrio characters and all, Sanrio, Doraemon, all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been part of the Japanese culture for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So many companies have created theme parks over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Actually did some research, and there's about 4 theme parks that have been, or there's one active, but there's been 4 theme parks that were created throughout Japan,
mm-hmm.
called Ultraman Land, M78 Ultraman Park,
mm-hmm.
Tsuburaya Jungle,
mm-hmm.
Ultraman Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to come up with something that was kind of original.
Yeah.
But I took the easiest route and then just called it Ultraman's Homeland. So I did create a logo for this. So for our listeners, we'll probably post it on our Instagram when the episode's out at the end of September or October. So you guys can check it out there.
Yeah, it'll also be on our WordPress, so go ahead and check it out there as well. But in terms of the demographic that you're catering to, is this a cater towards the kids? Is it catered towards the adults, everywhere and in between?
So it's catered towards adults because I really nerded out. And there's a lot of references throughout the park that only fans may recognize. Yeah, but I mean, kids can still enjoy it, I think, even if they don't. I mean, okay, it's targeted towards adults who are fans of the series, but non-fans can also enjoy it, I hope.
Okay, and we'll get to why probably more as we explore the different categories of the theme park, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. So on my side, I wanted to create. We've been through this, I think, in multiple episodes. I am a big fan of cars. Cars have played a big part of my life, but there are types of cars that are probably going to be extinct.
As we covered in episode 1 of the podcast.
Yes. So what I want to do is I want to create a theme park that would more or less kind of celebrate these types of cars, this type of moment in our history. And so what my theme park is, it's called Autopolis, which is the name of a racing circuit in Japan.
Okay.
And what Autopolis is a theme park / museum. There's going to be a lot of catering towards kids in terms of rides, mascots. But what I hope to do is also create a setting that adults can enjoy as well. And part of that enjoyment for the adults and for kind of like the car lover is going to be more or less kind of museum sets that are littered all over the park. One thing that I hope to do, and we'll get into this more, is the idea is to work with specific shops that work in making replicas and make replicas of these iconic cars from history in all of these locations. And hopefully I'll be able to make partnerships with a lot of these other companies that currently are in the market. But we'll get into that more of that later.
Just gotta find good investors. I mean, for sure there'll be a demand for that. It sounds pretty cool.
Thanks. I'm hoping that somebody will make it in the future. Maybe they'll be inspired by this. But
copyright it before someone takes it.
I'm happy if it comes into existence in the first place. So whoever's listening.
Man. Some of my ideas, if I see it in somewhere, I mean, I'll be pretty pissed. So, I
mean, you're making M79 Nebula, so.
Hey, M78.
M78 Nebula. But I think it's like, I'm not mad that somebody made the Petersen Automotive Museum, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, we went there when we were in LA.
Yeah.
As our listeners know, I'm not a huge car guy, but it was pretty cool. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I think that I would like to kind of create something similar to that experience, but also expand it out into a whole theme park. So again, that's my idea for theme parks. So let's go ahead and dive into more of the theme parks then. So in terms of maybe the location, where is your theme park located?
So my theme park is located in Japan, specifically the city called Sukagawa City in Fukushima, which is the birthplace of the creator of Ultraman and the Tsuburaya family that owns the IP. The city, Sukagawa City, because it's the birthplace of Ultraman, if you actually go to the city, there's a lot of monuments throughout the city that are Ultraman themed. And I think there's even a museum out there. But because it's the birthplace of this concept or this TV series, I wanted to put it there. And in addition to that, the city was one of those areas that was impacted by the 2011 earthquake in Japan. So I was hoping by creating this theme park here, it would re-energize the city as a whole. Because I know for a fact that there's a lot of Ultraman fans throughout the world. So it would be a reason for people from overseas that visit Japan to make their way to the city. So it is a little bit far from Tokyo, or the main, I guess, usual touristy areas in Japan. I did look it up. It's about a 2-hour boat train ride, so it's not too far.
I mean, 2 hours. It's pretty. I get.
Yeah,
it's not close.
Oh, it's not close. I think that's pretty close.
Well, I feel like comparatively, right? You fly into LAX here, and then it's an hour drive to Disneyland.
True, but I mean, it will be part of like a 2-week vacation in Japan. Okay, it's definitely not a destination that the only place that you go if you go to Japan. But if you have time, I'm hoping it'll be a destination, especially for Ultraman fans. And if you're a fan of Ultraman, I'm pretty sure you'll go there regardless. But I mean, I don't know why I'm promoting the city, but other than Ultraman, they do have a few famous events that they have there every year. I guess pre-COVID, and the nature out there is beautiful as well. So
you're gonna make a theme park that destroys nature.
Why?
Because you have to make space for it.
Oh no, they have a lot of space.
Do they?
I actually did.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, before we move on, I did want to make sure that we do tell the audience that, and we're not making this up as we go, but we did want to integrate some of the boundlessness that we used in our previous episodes when talking about things like technology availability as well as location, right? So although Keishi's done a great job of making sure that where he has placed the location of his theme park, we did want to make that as a particular boundary, as well as, again, technology. So like IoT, 5G, if we were to incorporate any type of technology like virtual reality, Androids, all of that would be fair game in these concepts. With that said,
so Phil, where's your theme park located?
So my theme park's going to be located Arizona, Utah, Nevada, kind of like that border area where ideally I wouldn't be putting this where I would be impeding on nature reserves, because I do think that there are a lot of nature reserves, but there's also kind of an increasing popularity with that kind of like South Las Vegas area, North Arizona area as a tech hub where they're doing a lot of like autonomous vehicle testing at the moment. And then also out there's a lot of open space. So I feel like one of the advantages of putting a theme park there would be, one, the open space, two, the fact that the temperature is relatively the same. It gets really hot out there, but one of the advantages I think of that would be to build a lot of solar panels around there, as well as like incorporating solar panels into a lot of the buildings so that we can harness that energy to make the theme park a lot more green friendly. And then, help with the local economy out there. I think we have a lot in LA. We have a lot on the West Coast as a whole. I don't think we need any more out there. So I think moving a little bit further east probably helps that a little bit.
So your theme park's located in Utah?
It's Arizona. So a little bit.
Oh, sorry, like, Arizona.
Yeah, like northwest of Phoenix.
I didn't know there was a hub out in Phoenix.
Yeah, I think like Waymo's testing out there. Uber's testing out there. Chandler in Arizona, wherever that is, like Uber's testing out there. And it's close to Las Vegas. Like Nero just announced that they're building a factory out in Las Vegas. So there's a up and coming tech sector that's developing out there. So
no, I think it's a good location because a lot of people, they go to the Horseshoe Bend in Arizona. So at least for us, we started in California, go to Vegas, and then go to the Arizona Horseshoe Bend. What's the other?
And then they have like Bryce Canyon and Bryce Canyon and Zion and the Grand Canyon out there.
Yeah. So I think it would be, although I've been there, I don't remember, so I don't know how close it is to the area that you're trying to build this theme park. But I mean, it could be, it could be all part of a vacation.
Yeah, I think it allows us to move the vacation center a lot more east, or like expand the vacation center east, as well as kind of allow like an in-between stop between Las Vegas and Phoenix. So if you if you ever like want to take your family out to Las Vegas or Phoenix for whatever reason, now you have kind of more reason to go out there, stay out there for a longer period of time. So now that we talked about location, let's go ahead and move on to the map of the theme parks. So what is kind of like your layout, your map? What does that look like for?
It's called M78.
So what is your map and layout of M78?
So again, I've been a nerd out here, so Phil, please keep me grounded here. But the whole theme park again is based off the first series of Ultraman. So I broke it down into 5 main sections. So there's a few kaijus that are in these series that are kind of well known, not just like the core fans, but in Japan in general. I don't know if you know, but Alien Barutan, it's a cicada kaiju. I don't know if you've ever.
I don't.
Yeah, maybe not. But if you do grow up in Japan, it's kind of integrated into everyday quote-unquote Japanese culture. So you've seen it. But he's a villain that's very, very popular in Japan. I'm not really sure the reason why, but the first time he appears in the episode, it's a great episode. But usually when you think about like monsters and invading Earth, you should think of like Black and White, an evil person that's trying to take over the world. But Barutan has a reason why they're invading Earth. So the reason is that I guess the whole species as a whole, they're traveling through space. There's an explosion that takes place in the homeland. So they no longer have anywhere to go back to. So they're exploring space and they find Earth and they feel like it's the easiest to invade. So they come in and invade. And there's a scene in that episode where the special forces fighting the kaijus, they ask him like, why are you guys here? And Barutan explains to them the reason why. And then the special forces guy is like, okay, well, as long as you don't cause any issues, you're welcome here. And then Barutan tells them like, well, I actually have a few billion of my species on the spaceship. Are you guys still okay? And then the special forces that are supposed to be like the UN in this whole series, like, why don't you just go to Mars? Just choose them away right away as soon as they find out that they have like billions of species in that spaceship. Maybe that wasn't as funny as I thought. I thought it was really hilarious when I watched it. Anyways, so yeah, I'm going off topic here. But so there's a few kaijus that are integrated as part of the Japanese culture that are well known. So the first area will focus on those famous kaijus and the episodes, and you get to kind of experience those episodes through the rides and the entertainment. And then moving on, section 2, area 2 is the headquarters for the special forces team. I won't go into the details of the experience because I'll cover that later. But that's the second section. The third section, there's a lot of battle scenes throughout the series where Ultraman fights near the ocean, and it's water themed essentially. So I was hoping to create a water park there. And then Area 4 pays homage to the Judah production studio that creates the whole series. So it's like a museum of sorts. So I won't go into too much now, but you get to experience the history of Ultraman. And then the last part is the center tower, similar to how we have the Snow White castle. In Disney, it's a castle. In mine, it's a tower because Ultraman's homeland has a central tower. And then even I'm getting tired of saying this. M78. Yeah, so I'll have a tower there that kind of recreates the homeland, and you get to see view the entire theme park from above, like the needle from Seattle or whatever.
Cool, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm curious to go a little bit more in depth as we follow through. I think I got a little hooked up on the Barutan explanation in the beginning. So
Phil, what about your theme park? What are the key areas that you have?
So I have 4 key areas. The first area is called the racetrack. The second area is called the repair shop and dealership, which already, like, after saying it out loud, like in my mind, I had it like, oh, this is a cool thing. But after saying it out loud to someone, sounds terrible because I think a lot of people don't like the dealership experience.
Yeah, it's generally negative. Lemons and all that.
Yeah. The third is the mountain pass.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool.
And then the fourth is the open road. So at the racetrack, what I really want is to kind of merge all of the circuit type motorsports. So NASCAR, Formula One, Formula D, Formula E drag strips for drag racing, and even like rally car racing, all kind of motorsport and racing. I want that to encapsulate that into one area. So that's actually going to be probably one of the feature areas of the park. And then the places around it are going to be aren't going to be as big. They're not going to be as feature, but they are still going to have as big of a presence as I can make them. Mm-hmm. So like, for example, in the racetrack itself, it has a lot of sub areas. So the first sub area is like the pit garage. Second sub area is like the pit lane. Third area is the circuit. Fourth area is the paddock. Bear with me. I'm also nerding out, okay?
I know, because you recommended me the Netflix F1 docuseries.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really good. You guys should watch it.
Drive to Survive. Anyways, back to the map. So that's circuit, right? The second area is the repair shop and the dealership. And while it's called the repair shop and dealership, I wanted to kind of expand that to not only having like a repair shop and dealership type places and type themes within that, but I also want to expand that to different types of car meets. So one very big car meet in the automotive world is Cars and Coffee. Another one is the Concours d'Elegance, which is this huge, really fancy kind of get together of really fancy cars, typically, and really fancy like car manufacturers. You don't usually see like a Toyota there. You see like at minimum a Lexus kind of place. And then the Mountain Pass, that's one of the smaller areas. It's going to primarily have two sections. One of them is called the Turnout. The other one's called the Meet. The Mountain Pass is supposed to be kind of an allude to like Initial D, but also just kind of mountain back road driving that a lot of car enthusiasts partake in. And that happens in the day, happens at night. So there'll be different settings for that. The last place I want to mention is the open road, which it's very iconic in Hollywood movies as kind of like this one very desolate road that leads up the middle of nowhere. But within that, right, there's so much that you can kind of go through. So like usually you'll have like your end of the road, like canyons that you'll see. But within that, I want to capture kind of that experience, not only for the outside, but also one big area of that open road is going to be the RV. So I wanted to also just kind of have like a sub area called the RV that you can play around with. So that's my map. Those are my sections. Again, the racetrack, the repair shop and dealership, the Mountain Pass, and the open road. Obviously, there's going to be places inside, and we'll get into that later. So, Keishi, you're not the only one nerding out. I'm also guilty of that.
Now, I'm excited for Mountain Pass and the open road, like how you replicate that in your theme park.
Yeah. So before we get to the Mountain Pass and open road in my theme park, let's go ahead and talk about how people will explore M78.
Sure. So it does sound pretty cliche, but I'm looking to have a mobile app.
There's an app for that.
That you're encouraged to download. So any purchasing of your ticket will be done through the mobile app. And it would also contain, I guess, a map, a virtual map in there. I was thinking like a hologram, a 3D kind of thing where it kind of displays on top of your smartphone, if you're still using smartphones, so that you can see where you're at and like how far you are to each area. Because oftentimes, you need to get to a certain section because you're on a waiting list or you're trying to meet with your family or friends, and you don't know how long it might take for you to get there. So I'm hoping by using that map, it's like, oh, you can tell your friends, I'll be there in like 20 or 10, depending on how crowded the theme park is.
So what was that device? Sorry? What was that device? Oh, but you said that it would pop up above it?
I don't know what our smartphones will look like in the future, but I was hoping to create either a hologram or there are these VR headsets that you can purchase that we'll be using for some of the entertainment, which I'll go into later. But that's a little bit too much, so I'm leaning towards the hologram idea.
Gotcha.
And also in this series, the Special Forces team, they have this badge that they put on their chest, which also plays a role of a transmitter or a walkie-talkie. It's like a phone / walkie-talkie, so they're able to communicate with other members of the special forces. So I was looking to recreate that as well, so that would allow the visitors to communicate with other members that are also there. So you have the map to navigate through the theme park, and then you have this badge that you can use to communicate. And I won't go into too much of the details, but this badge also does play a key part in your VR experience throughout the park. So I don't know how much it will cost, but it's one feature that kind of enhances your experience there. And then other than that, there's a car that the Special Forces team uses. It's a Chevrolet Corvair.
Corvair for 1965. International beauty.
For maybe car fans out there.
Oh man, they picked quite the car. It was Chevrolet's answer to the Porsche. It's a rear engine car, but it was really dangerous to drive.
Really?
Yeah, like
they're driving it through the mountains and everything, so I thought it was a pretty reliable car. I guess not.
I mean, reliability, I think, is different from safety. The way that Porsches are set up dynamically is like if you have to take the corner a specific way and you can't lift, because if you lift, you more or less spin out. So the Porsche has been around for a bit. Everybody who drove one knew about it, kind of thing. The Corvair came in. No one knew how to drive it. The dynamics weren't as good as Porsche's dynamics. So when people made the mistakes, it was more deadly. So
I didn't know that, but given the time, nobody's wearing seatbelts. So and they're driving it pretty recklessly. So
yeah, I mean, it's probably like fun to drive because back then they don't have power steering, and because you move to the engine in the back, your steering is lighter, so that's good for like slower driving. But yeah, if you drive that fast like most people in America, then you'd kill yourself.
Right. Very fun fact. In any case, so the Special Forces, they ride the car. So I was hoping in my design, there would be autonomous cars of this car model that kind of drives throughout the theme park. And you can ride them kind of like taxis to kind of get around certain sections, because some people do have difficulties with mobility. So it's like at Disneyland, you have monorails to kind of help you get around. So this would play that role. Yeah, but that's kind of how you get around M78.
Cool. The Corvair is going to be an interesting one, but I think knowing what you're putting for and then kind of the background on the Corvair, that's really cool that you're able to like condense that use case.
No, it's going to be modern technology, but the frame on top of the car will be this car.
Okay.
For the safety of our...
Well, I don't think they're going to be driving it fast enough to be dangerous, so I think you're safe.
Not. Well, I mean, they're not going to be driving it. They'll be driven.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. So I think you went a lot further along technology-wise than I wanted to go with Autopolis. What I really wanted to do with Autopolis was make it more old school-esque. And with that, right, what is the big thing you think about, right? You think about a paper map, right? Back in the day, I don't know if you had this or if they had this equivalent in Japan, but in the US, you take a road trip, you get a map from AAA, you open up the map, you highlight the location you want to go to. There's not going to be any highlighting or anything, but the map is something that we'd like to have. Alternatively, similar to you, I wanted to have an app, but the app would look like Google Maps, but for the theme park. Because that's primarily how you get around these days, right? Everyone just uses Google Maps or Apple Maps. But what I also wanted to have is kind of similar to what you did. I wanted to be able to gamify kids going around. So what I mean by that is they get more or less kind of like a fuel tank band. And so
what is that?
It's a step counter with a counter that goes backwards. So the more you step, the lower your fuel tank is, right? So simulate to you driving, right? So the idea is that there's checkpoints all around the map that are located in each place where you refuel your tank. And at these checkpoints, there would be more or less kind of like small little giveaway prizes, like a postcard, or you'd be able to take a picture there. But that's where you refuel.
Okay.
That was kind of like the big thing that I had for exploration. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one, which is the food. So what kind of food is there at M78?
Food for me is really scarce to your exploration. So I think Subaru Productions does a very good job with merchandising. So everything that you can think of when it comes to like Ultraman themed food is out there. So I took the easy route and said leverage an existing product. So it's essentially like Disneyland, but with Ultraman. So every food that you purchase, I don't know, like a Coke, a bottle of water, or I don't know, a snack, everything has Ultraman on there. So that's one thing. The other thing was the local food that Sukagawa City is known for. They'll serve there.
Okay. So I guess we should move on to the so that you're not embarrassed, my food isn't super depthful either. In Autopolis,
I'm not embarrassed.
Well, okay. So yeah, food wise, there's not going to be too much, right? I think the main thing is kind of throwback to cars. So there's going to be a lot of like, unfortunately, starchy things. Like pastries are going to be big, right? So like croissants and all that, but they will be shaped like the different cars. So depending on where you go, I mean, it's a pastry, right? You could shape it really into anything.
I thought you were gonna say like the logos of the car companies that are sponsoring it, like creating croissants in a car shape seems like.
It depends on the car, right? They could turn like a flaky pastry into like a beetle, for example, right?
I guess a cookie sounds like a simpler.
That's true. I mean, a cookie would be easier.
Anyway, I don't know anything about pastries. So
yeah,
maybe this useful.
So, well, there's going to be some focus on the food, right? So one of the things I wanted to have was like a motor oil smoothie, which is essentially like a black food coloring smoothie.
That sounds very appetizing.
No, it sounds, doesn't it? It should be, I mean, it'll be like a regular smoothie, just with like black food coloring. So.
Like Coke flavored?
No, that would be better though, huh? Like a Coke flavored root beer float. That'd be motor oil.
Yeah. The smoothie. What would be Coke flavored?
Race fuel would actually be like coffee flavored items, but there'd be like it'd be super sweet.
Yeah.
I do have also on top of the car pastries, car popsicles. So kind of similar to what you were saying with like the cookies, something a lot easier to make cool.
Yeah.
And then one of the big things would be the turbo dog. So if you've seen a turbo charger, it looks like a snail. So yeah. Like instead of like a straight dog, it'd be curled up into a turbo shape, and then all of that will be stuffed into like a bun.
Okay.
So I thought that was a kind of fun idea.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah.
But I didn't have too much to think about the food. I was actually more enamored with what would make the foods. So all like the hamburgers and hot dogs, those would be cooked on like an engine looking like grill. So you pop the hood on your car and you grill on an engine.
Okay.
So that's what the cafes would look like. Also any type of smoothie, so like the motor oil smoothie or anything like a milkshake, for example, you'd get that through like power tools. So they wouldn't make them with normal looking smoothie machines or milkshake machines. They'd make them through like these power tool looking things to give you that experience, not so much of what you take, but how you get your food.
Definitely Instagram friendly.
Yeah.
More than mine, for sure.
I mean, I'm sure yours will be Instagram friendly. Your food will be Instagram friendly.
Yeah. Okay. Not my place is not foodie friendly, is what I meant to say.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if my place is either. Yeah. Well, that's debatable. My food isn't going to be that appetizing. I feel that black colored root beer float's not going to be that great.
Yeah, maybe not. Hey, but it could be the next butter beer, you know?
That's true. All right, moving on. Let's get over to the rides.
Okay, so with mine, as I mentioned in the earlier prior to the commercial, as a lot of these theme parks and amusement parks integrate VR into the experience, I think we all both prefer an experience where the physical experience and the VR experience is kind of meshed into one rather than going 100% VR. And similar to your passion about cars, like historic cars and prior to autonomous cars, I have a huge passion for tokusatsu, which is like the old Japanese special effects style that uses models instead of animation. So, and that's why I love the Ultraman series and Gojira and all that, those old Japanese kids shows that came out prior to even when we were born. So to pay homage to the Tsubudaya production One of the things I can do here is recreate the tokusatsu experience, but make it your own. So as a fan, there's a few scenes in the series that you just love, the fighting scenes and things like that. There would be a studio where you can actually recreate the experience and make it your own. So you would wear the VR headset that I kind of mentioned earlier, which is like the helmet that the Special Forces team used to wear. So that would be your VR goggles. Then you would also wear a motion capture suit. So there's, a 3-step process where you design your own set using VR, and then you 3D print it on a spot. And based on my research, 3D printing takes 30 minutes to 2 hours or even more. So it's in the future. So I'm just gonna say it takes 30 minutes to recreate everything. You would 3D print out all these like buildings and all that and create your own set. And then you would reenact it while wearing your VR headset and your motion capture suit.
That's cool.
And then you would be able to film that. Realistically speaking, like creating an actual like scene takes a whole bunch of work. But I'm just gonna say you can create it in 30 minutes, and then they can somehow edit it up all using AI or something. Or you can, I don't know if MP4 files will exist then, but
you'll probably get it uploaded to a place where you can download it, right?
Yeah. So similar to how you take photos when you take rides at Disneyland, people purchase the photos, but here you can purchase the movie, a scene that you've created at the studio. So that's one thing. Another thing that's pretty big in the series is when the main character changes into Ultraman. He has like the special tool that helps him change into Ultraman. So the plan is to have, again, use VR 3D printing to create your own, what they call Henshin kit. So that's available to you. And other than that, because it's a series where the Special Forces fights the kaijus, they have different rides that gets highlighted throughout the series, like a plane, there's a submarine, and then there's scenes where the Special Forces team shoots guns at the kaijus and defeats them. So using VR, you would be able to ride on the submarine or the plane and fight the kaijus, or you could use a gun to fight kaijus and defeat them. And I won't go into details because I was originally going to speak about certain episodes that will be replicated through these VR experiences, but as nerding out too much. So if you check out the WordPress, I'll list episodes for true fans of Ultraman to check it out.
All right.
Oh, and then, this is not really, a ride per se, but similar to what you had with, the kids kind of having the fuel tank band, the badge that I mentioned earlier that the Special Forces wear, you would be able to purchase it, and then this would unlock special features throughout the park that allow them to hear voice recordings from the TV show or enter a lottery where they can win special merchandise that's only available to you if you were specifically at the theme park, or get prioritization on any future Ultraman events.
So for the 3D printed part, do you know if that you they have to pay extra for it? Like, how in Disneyland, when you make the lightsaber, you have to pay if you keep it. Is that something that you
have to pay?
Okay,
extra for that. Yeah. But again, this is kind of targeted towards adults, so I'm assuming money's not an issue.
Well, I'm curious if it's put into the price of the ticket versus an extra fee that you pay once you're in the park.
I'm gonna try to milk as much money as I can from these people, man.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. But hopefully the technology will be advanced enough that it doesn't cost too much to do the VR and 3D printing experience, so that we can try to lower the price.
Cool. And see, I have a few different rides on my side at the racetrack area of the map. Kind of the common theme through a lot of these is trying to incorporate a lot of different types of motorsports. And a lot of motorsports have more or less kind of a pit stop, which if you're not familiar with motorsports, what a pit stop is essentially the racer and race car will come into an area and they will change tires and or refuel depending on the motorsport that you're performing. So the first ride is the pit stop. in the pit stop, you'd more or less kind of be in a Buzz Lightyear / Toy Story type game where you were in a cart that moves through different types of motorsports. And at each pit stop, what you want to do is you're kind of like using a trigger to shoot at a screen, similar to what you do in like Toy Story attraction and Buzz Lightyear attraction at Disneyland. The second attraction that I had was a ride called Sprint Lap. And what Sprint Lap is more or less kind of your typical Screaming California type ride. It's just kind of like a big high G-force, high speed ride that will simulate to a certain extent, like going through a racetrack. What I have as well is kind of like having two cars on at the same time and inside. So you'd have parallel tracks kind of going back and forth. I don't know if you've been on the Cars ride at Disneyland. They kind of have that, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So kind of like that.
Okay.
I was debating whether or not to make that more kind of like a visual VR-esque experience, but I thought, again, we had this conversation earlier on. It's debatable which one will be attractive kind of further on, a VR experience or experience that doesn't have VR, just for like pure tactility and realism experience. I wanted to keep that open-ended.
So what is it? What is that ride?
It's like a big roller coaster, any type of like your Screaming California.
But what are you seeing when you're riding the roller coaster?
You're seeing the roller coaster.
Oh, it's just a roller coaster.
It's just a roller coaster. So I wanted to have a roller coaster inside the circuit or the racetrack area that simulated kind of the G-force that you'd be experiencing on a racetrack. Or the acceleration that you'd be experiencing on a racetrack.
Okay, understood.
Maybe Space Mountain would have been kind of like a cool comparison.
So it's a roller coaster that goes around the track?
No. So it's still like a regular roller coaster. So visually you're not seeing it, but it ties into like a racetrack theme park. The big part of like being in a race car is that G's, the side to side, lateral G for that, like how fast you're accelerating, how fast you're decelerating. And so there's a video that came up recently of like an F1 driver, like his in-helmet view of what he's seeing. So I kind of wanted to have that experience and not take away from that. Okay. So the next ride is called the Drag Strip. And what that is essentially kind of like a drop zone ride.
Wait, drop zones are the ones that shoot up and then it comes down, right?
No, it starts at the top and then just shoots down or drops down.
You're right. Yeah. Wait, hold up. So how's that? Where's the car theme there?
It's a vertical. So if a drag strip is horizontal, right? You're tilting it 90 degrees.
So wait, are you facing down?
Yeah.
And it's like you're falling.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you're following free fall downwards, and then at some point there will be like a braking zone where like in drag racing the parachutes come out.
Yeah.
But similarly in drop zone you'll just kind of stop.
That's pretty scary. Like I mean, like drop zone I can understand because you're seeing the vision. You know, you're looking. Outwards. Outwards, right?
Yeah.
But falling to the earth, facing the earth.
Yes.
I like it. That's on the great thrill.
We'll see how attractive that is for people.
We're trying to imagine the mechanics of like how you would strap yourself in it.
I don't remember if you remember the ride X2 at Six Flags. So it's kind of like standing and then they'll just like Megatron, like just kind of go outwards and then just like lift up.
Okay.
So that's the racetrack. I mentioned this in the beginning of the description of the park, but what I also wanted to do was also have a museum. So part of the circuit would be different types of famous motorsport cars, like replicas of those cars, just kind of littered around so you can observe, you can go inside, take pictures. And that would be the last big attraction at the racetrack. At the repair shop and dealership, there aren't also that many types of rides. The repair shop would more or less be kind of like a kids interactive area where they'd be able to buy things, kind of like what they do at the Cars Garage in downtown Disneyland. Play with power tools, put together like miniature cars, but not be able to buy them or have to buy them to take them out. But it'd also be another kind of big museum area for really old cars, but also kind of new, up until that point, cool cars that would be like at a concourse, at a car club that more or less would rotate depending on how many people take pictures with them and put them on social media. And then the mountain pass, you'd have one of the rides would be more or less what we call the Touge, which is an homage to Initial D. And that would be kind of a cross between the Teacups ride and Indiana Jones ride. So what I mean by that is that you'd have the option to more or less kind of spin however you want. Every time you go in, you choose a different mountain pass. And then you more or less kind of go through that mountain pass left or right. But you'd be able to more or less kind of control which direction your vehicle is orientated as you go through this mountain pass. So you can go through the whole mountain pass sideways. You can go through it forward. You can pretend to actually take the corner normally. You can go through it backwards. But that's kind of like the essence of what that ride was.
You're recreating drifting with Coffee Cup.
Yeah, kind of. We're incorporating drifting into the Indiana Jones ride via a teacup type motion.
Okay.
So in that land, the museum would be a museum for famous like street modifications. So like Celine, there'd be HKS, different car modification companies and like replicas of their famously modified cars would be at that museum, again, for pictures and whatnot. Again, just very social media friendly.
Hey man, you gotta get influencers coming to your
I know, right?
To promote it. I'm not gonna get any influencers coming to my spot, so.
And then I have the open road, which doesn't really have that many rides. It just has like a ghost town maze. It'll have the RV, which is like a big play area that's dressed up like an RV. It'll have like the roadside diner, which is a place to eat. And it'll have the rest stop, which is like a really nice bathroom area. And then there's also essentially like a big fan, because one of the things that I feel like I've associated in the past with driving down the open road is driving down the open road with like a convertible. And so I want that like big fan to blow against people, because that's like an image that people have. So it's not really a ride per se, but it's just this huge fan that's blowing constantly. I'd also have kind of a contest for the best type of RV or camper trailer. They had this at a San Francisco Treasure Island flea market, which I thought was really cool. And this is what I'd also want in that open road area. So I want to have that, just like an exhibit of camper trailers and RVs there to kind of see what people think of when they like decorate them inside.
Oh, okay.
As you can see, this takes up a lot of land. And so that's why Phoenix makes sense, because it's very spread out. So moving on to, I think, one of the things that you're most excited about, which is the logo and the mascot. Keishi, take it away.
For the logo, I actually did create my own logo. Hopefully I won't get sued because of the licensing and all that.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's been so many Ultraman related theme parks in the past. It was kind of hard to create something that was original. So if you check out our Instagram or WordPress, we'll see it there. But okay, so for the logo, there's actually a real life nebula called M78. Which has been captured by scientists in the past, so that I put that as a background, and then in front of that I have Ultraman with his famous pose when he does the beam attack, especially in Kosen. I don't want to get attacked by actual fans. And then at the bottom it just says Nebulous M78 in Japanese and English, and it has the Special Forces Kaktokusotai logo in there. So that's it. It's pretty simple.
I can't wait to have that posted on Instagram. Take a look. It'll be pretty awesome.
And then for the mascot, again, because it's a collaboration between Ultraman and the city, both actually do have mascots already. So I know it's not very visual, but I just leverage both of them. I'm sharing the visuals for Phil, and you guys, listeners, can check it out when they never had the chance. But
that's like whatchamacallit, the Z-Blabs version, huh?
Yeah. So it's just like Ultraman. So for those listeners who don't know, Japan, they're so into these mascots and characters that they had this thing called Yuru Kyara. It's essentially a mascot for everything, and every city has a mascot. So the city that we'll be collaborating with already has a mascot called Botang. So I guess there's an event that they do annually in the fall where they burn a lot of wood to, I guess, kind of pray to the gods. It's like a Japanese thing. So they made that into a mascot. So they have this character called Botang, and then you have Ultraman. So it's just them coming together. So if you go to the theme park, you'll see these two characters kind of walking around. You actually take photos with them, which is one of the only events that I have at theme park.
All right. So for my logo and mascot, I actually didn't spend too much time on the logo / any time on the logo, because what I had in my mind, and after kind of seeing what you did, I kind of realized it was kind of lame. But I don't know if you've seen the logo for like Mod Nation Racers.
Is that a YouTube page?
No, Mod Nation Racing was a PlayStation exclusive racing game similar to Mario Kart.
Oh, okay.
And what I was going to do for a logo was essentially say Autopolis in place of Mod Nation Racing. I didn't draw this out, but Autopolis in place of Mod Nation Racing. And then on top of that, Autopolis riding would be the ensemble of mascots.
Mascots of what?
Mascots for my theme park.
Okay.
So I have an ensemble of mascots, and based off of the source material of the theme, it's like almost infinitely expandable. Granted, probably not as infinite as I have in my mind, but there's a lot I can choose from. So I've narrowed it down to a few of them. A lot of them are gonna have like helmets. So the basic shape of the mascot is, if you've seen the Disney Squishmallows, they're essentially like a blob with like a head on top of it. And the bottom half of my mascot would be the car that they're driving. So all of them would be more or less kind of like top of a body / head and a car on the bottom instead of legs. So in terms of mascots kind of like parading around, it'd be big versions of those. And so an example of one mascot would be a helmet that is in the same color as the infamous yellow, red, and green Senna helmet. For those who don't know you, Ayrton Senna is a very famous race car driver who has a very tragic end of life, but he was very beloved by the people of Brazil. So the first mascot would be, it doesn't have a name yet. I haven't given it a name. So it'd be a combination of a Squishmallow where the helmet, his visor would be up. All of them are like animals in how they look, kind of similar to kind of like the Squishmallows. So this kind of looking character would be kind of like a jaguar, like a Brazilian jaguar. And his bottom half would be a Formula One car modeled after his famous red and white MP44.
Why a jaguar? Is that his like thing?
No, he didn't have a... I realized that most of the characters don't have famous pets, except for like Lewis Hamilton, who has a bulldog. But I thought Brazil has jaguars, so I was trying to pick a cool animal for him.
Wait, maybe I missed it. Why are you incorporating animals in here?
Just because it's cute.
Wait, so the design is they're wearing helmets.
Yeah.
Bottom half are cars.
Yeah.
It's their car.
Yeah.
Used to drive or driving. And then when you lift the helmet, there's animals in there.
So only some of them have helmets. So the second one was gonna kind of be like a Doc-esque character, but they're gonna be like I forgot what kind of dog that Einstein is in Back to the Future.
Oh, okay.
And his car would be a DeLorean, right?
Oh, okay.
And then there's going to be a speed racer looking one with like a Mach 5 helmet and the Mach 5 car as the bottom half, but that would be like a chimpanzee, or the chimp that speed racer has.
Okay. I hope you actually try to create these as visuals, because I'm having a hard time following.
All right, Keishi, what kind of merchandising event you got going on?
So merchandising for mine, similar to the food, I didn't really put too much time into it. Mm-hmm. Again, Tsuburaya Productions, they do a whole lot with merchandising, from clothing, hats, keychains, you name it. they have Ultraman branded stuff out there. So, and because it's a theme park that's being sponsored by Tsukuda Productions in the city, I just kind of played off of that and decided to have available any merchandising that they release. Now, with that said, at the same time, I do want to be a little bit eco-friendly, or kind of have that mindset. So I would like to limit the amount of merchandising I have at my theme park. And if I do try to use reusable plastic or things like that, just be conscious of that, and then try to focus more so on the experience that you gain when you go there. And also, because my target base are more so adults and not kids. Well, I mean, adults also do love like merchandising too, but yeah, there's not much there. But instead, again, with the experience, I with the VR and 3D printing, I have the changing henshin kits that you can design, as well as the movie set experience, the filming experience they have that you can take home.
Yeah,
that's unique to you. And then moving on to events, again, very limited, unfortunately. But there will be photo opportunities with the mascots as well as other characters from the show. That is available at the Central Tower.
Okay.
In the middle of the theme park, because that's home for Ultraman, so that's where you find Ultraman, similar to how you'll find Mickey at Mickey Mouse's house at certain times of the day. And then I don't know if this is feasible because I don't know anything about astrology, but I was hoping maybe if you could put a telescope at that Central Tower, and if you could actually see the actual Nimbus M78, that would be kind of cool. But again, to have a telescope of that scale to be able to see something so far away, I mean, you have like designated spots in Hawaii just for these telescopes, so maybe that's not very realistic. But depending on where our technology takes us in the future, and if it could replicate that experience at a smaller scale, I was hoping to have that there too.
So assuming that IP rights was not an issue, you had like really close communication with the Ultraman studio and the city, is there any type of like specific like limited edition merchandise that you might want to have at M78?
So I forgot to mention this in the very beginning when I talked about location and why I chose Sukagawa City as its location. Well, I guess I kind of did mention it. I just wanted to give back to the city and kind of re-energize the economy there. So a certain percentage of the profit goes back to the city and its people. So to kind of boost that income that will be going into the city, I was thinking of special merchandise that's only available at the theme park. So some of the special merchandising that's available specific at the theme park would be models of Ultraman. So in the anime, what are those called? Models world, there's special colorways that are released only during a certain period of time, or along with certain releases of a series of movies or whatever it may be, right? So one of the special items that will be released would be special colorways of some of the kaijus or Ultraman, or the characters or even the car, the airplane that are seen throughout the series. And also, again, I'm kind of nerding out here, but there's certain quote-unquote locations that are specific to each kaiju. So it would be a collectible. So it would be Ultraman, the kaiju, and the movie setting. So it would be a 3-set deal. And you kind of need to go back again and again to be able to get all 3.
Oh man, you're really milking the money.
Yeah, I collector's item. Go capitalism. Capitalism. I mean, like as a fan, those are the type of things that people get excited about. Like basic stuff, people don't get excited about. Like no shots on Unico, but like Unico has been doing a lot of collaborations, right? Recently.
Yeah.
Most recently, they did the Jujutsu Kaisen, the anime, earlier in 2021. But those are things that are available to the public. The quote-unquote true fans go for limited merchandise, that's not available to the public, and that kind of elevates your position within that community, right? So you're right, I am milking the fans here, but I am also a fan. So if that was something that was available, I would definitely spend extra money to get. That's my take.
Okay. This is why Keishi's the businessman and I'm not.
Well, I mean, okay. So what about you? So what are your merchandising events?
My merchandising is very generic. You have your various types of helmets for the different types of motorsports that are branded as such, as well as replicas of the helmets. There are any like hairs that the mascots have, plushies, racing gloves, racing suits, mini car versions of the cars that are at each of the areas, including like, again, you have your tuning houses that make tuners ones. So you'd have mini replicas of those. And then like your basic shirts, sunglasses. I think if you've ever been to like the Ferrari studio, they have like a Ferrari museum place thing, and you just get like keychains that say Museo de Ferrari. So nothing super exclusive. It's not a place for merchandising per se. It's more of a, I think, a homage, right? I guess, yeah, I wasn't looking at it as like a place you get collector things.
Okay.
In terms of events, I did have ride-alongs. So part of the circuit is an actual circuit. So there is kind of like a race course there.
Okay.
So there are more or less kind of like events, like drifting events, with ride-alongs, as well as kind of hot laps that you'd be able to take. If you really wanted to, you could take your car on that circuit, but you'd have to pay an exorbitant amount of money and sign a release. But there would be that availability to do that, and you can like reserve the time to do that. There would be a Eurobeat concert, which is something that I think is unique.
Integral part of car culture.
An integral part of car culture.
Or integral, yeah.
There would be a hologram light show that kind of go through the streets, as well as several different parades. So like each car genre, so like import cars would take a parade, American muscle would take a parade, motorsport cars would take a parade. So they'd all take parade laps, just kind of throughout different times throughout the days.
So are the cars that's available for test driving as well as the parade, I guess, are they always the same thing, or does it change over time?
They're different. So the cars that are used in the parade are similar to like the replica cars that are in the museum. So they're not actually the real cars. They are cars that look like the real cars, based on the real cars. They might have as close to the real sound to the original car as possible, because sound is a visual thing. But those real cars cost millions of dollars and are collector's items. These are more or less kind of like shells.
Oh no, but I mean, do they change? Are they always the same? The point of my question is, what encourages people to come back if the experience is always the same?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Could be said with mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I assume because you have a lot of partnerships that you can do with different companies, car companies. So my assumption was that maybe, the ride or the cars that are highlighted, or whatever, it's always constantly changing depending on. Well, maybe there won't be new car releases then because people won't be driving cars. I don't know. Maybe they'll do like a 1930s or.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but my thoughts about a theme park aren't that they are a place that you go to frequently. For me, at least, a theme park is someplace you go maybe once, twice, 3 times in your lifetime.
So there's no annual pass?
No, it's not designed for that. Yeah.
But I mean, your place is also a museum, though, isn't it? Like museums, they change the display every so often.
Yeah, but we'll get to a convergence where there are the exhibits that stay the same, that are the popular exhibits, and then you'll have like some exhibits that are more or less rotating.
Okay.
But they won't. The majority of it should stay the same. Obviously, this is probably due to never ran a museum, so I was thinking of it more kind of like the Academy of Sciences or the Exploratorium or even the Petersen Museum. I think a lot of that doesn't change.
Oh, it doesn't?
It doesn't change that frequently, at least. I take that back. They do change like the movie cars all the time. But I think general themes are pretty static.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is, again, a theme park that we're saying it's going to happen sometime in the near future, right? But at the same time, sometime in the near future, a lot of these things are going to be extinct, right? The way we think about them, right? So they're not going to make noise like they do now. They probably go just as fast, but like the thrill's not going to be there. Most of the stuff is illegal on your own. So yeah, that's the idea behind kind of this theme park, is just like a homage, a heritage place.
Sure, like memory lane for some.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think also applies to mine too.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think it kind of displays who we are as people. The audience, or our listeners, found out about us throughout season 1 is that maybe it's our age, but we've been paying homage to a lot of the things that we grew up around, which I think is something that a lot of creators do. I don't nerd out again, but if you watch any movie, you see parts of the director's personal interest and things that they're a fan of kind of incorporated into the movie. And I think you usually call those Easter eggs. You know?
Yeah.
So whenever somebody tries to create something, I think it's a reflection of who you are as a person. And I think that's what the audience kind of saw throughout season 1 as we first worked on the autonomous vehicle and then moved through sneakers.
Yeah, definitely. Sneakers. Then we did the wearables. Yeah, wearables, and then the bullet train.
And now the theme park.
Yeah.
You know, I think we both paid homage to the things that we like. So I thought it was a opportunity for our listeners to find out more about us. But at the same time, I personally felt like it was a way for me to kind of reflect on who I am as a person and what kind of, not to be over dramatic, but what created the person. What were some of the I don't know how to phrase this. Do you know what I mean though? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in essence what you're saying is just that this has been a way for us to show and connect with audience members, whether or not they be young members. They get to see what life was like for a mid 30-year-old. We're dating ourselves in 2021. Or for our older listeners, what kind of the millennial generation thinks of and what we relate to.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that it really opened our audience up to new ideas, designs. In today's world, everything's always constantly changing.
Yeah.
For the better, I don't know. But innovation is always happening, and it should be happening on a more frequent basis, according to Moore's Law. So I think it's important to kind of take some time to reflect on the things that has happened. Also be keen to what's going on in the future and how our life will be framed because of these changes. So I'm hoping, again, our listeners, by listening to our podcast season 1, open their eyes up to new
thoughts. Yeah, new thoughts.
And then you guys took the time to actually do your own research on these topics. And again, we're open to feedback. So if you have any thoughts that you'd like to share, thoughts about our designs and what we said, please feel free to hit us up.
Yeah. But on the other end of the coin, we hope that you've enjoyed this last season, because we are taking this moment to announce that we are preparing season 2. So be on the lookout for news regarding that.
You guys know where to follow us on that type of stuff. Our Instagram, WordPress, maybe Twitter. I don't know. We'll try that out.
Or Discord. The sky's the limit in terms of social media.
Yeah. Always looking for new ways for it to connect with the audience. So excited for that.
Yeah, so keep on the lookout for more announcements regarding season 2. I don't know if we want to give the audience an idea of what our next season's going to be.
All I'm going to say is this. Woven City.
Dang.
If you guys know what that is, you guys should be pretty hyped.
Thanks again. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you all again in season 2.
Sounds good. Peace.
Later.